begin.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Angelo and Steve. Really happy to be here with you and with all of this attending audience. We are happy to talk about 8X, about this innovation, and about diamonds in general. We have had a great experience in NAOS with these stones, and we're very, very happy to have a chat with all of you here. I will be speaking a bit in Spanish for the next 5 minutes, around 5 minutes. And then after that, Angelo and Steve will be speaking way more about GCAL. And maybe, Angelo, if you can give an introduction about you, Steve, GCAL in general, first will be great.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Alejandro. Thank you for putting this together and inviting us to speak to your clientele. I am Angelo Palmieri, president of GCAL by Serene. I've been with GCAL since 2005. I'm joined by my colleague, Steve Feldman, who is responsible for all of our international sales and marketing. Just during the presentation, if you guys have questions for Alejandro, Steve, myself, feel free to put it into the chat or the Q&A, and we'll definitely leave time for questions at the end. We'll also share our contact information, so if you have any follow-up questions, you can definitely reach us after the webinar. Again, we are very excited to be here, very honored to speak to the NAOS audience. And Alejandro, I'm going to turn it back to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Angelo and Steve, for your time, and happy to start. Well, I will turn the conversation in Spanish right now. Un poquito sobre NAOS. NAOS es una marca de lujo enfocada en diseño, fomentando la conciencia en el mundo. NAOS, el propósito de NAOS es celebrar el amor, la originalidad, la aventura, y parte de lo que tenemos en cuanto al enfoque al diseño de los pilares es que nuestras colecciones tienen un significado por cada colección. Parte de lo que también pueden encontrar en NAOS son piezas únicas, personalizadas, haciendo realidad la pieza de tus sueños a través de nuestro proceso desde cero, el cual es el con 3D printing y todo lo demás que viene siendo alrededor de 6-7 joyeros por cada pieza, dependiendo cada pieza y la sofisticación de cada una. Parte de lo que nos enfocamos mucho es que nuestras piezas tengan la opción de tener oro reciclado y platino reciclado como parte de la conciencia, que es el tercer pilar de NAOS. Y en cuanto a los diamantes, tenemos diamantes de mina, los de toda la vida de las minas. También tenemos diamantes cultivados, tanto en anillos de compromiso como en joyería. También en cuanto a los diamantes de mina y cultivados, que es parte de lo que vamos a platicar un poco más el día de hoy, tenemos los diamantes 8X, los cuales son diamantes que menos del 1% de los diamantes del mundo logran ser cortados 8X. Repito también, tanto mina como cultivados. Estos diamantes, al rato, Angelo y Steve les van a platicar un poco más sobre cómo es la manera en la que se cortan, qué es lo que se clasifican. Tiene que ver con el corte en general, pero ya más específicamente sobre las proporciones del diamante, si tienen hearts and arrows, si tienen en general el tema del pulido, de la simetría, y vamos a ver un poco sobre las diferencias de lo que es un diamante con corte excelente, un diamante corte very good o un diamante 8X, que es algo muy superior a lo convencional. Bueno, pues un poquito más sobre NAOS. Aquí tenemos el showroom en Calzada del Valle, un showroom en Calzada del Valle arriba de la Apple Store, y encantados de recibirlos el día que quieran. So right now, I'll turn the conversation to you, Angelo and Steve. I'll speak this part in English. Well, we have been working with 8X a few months ago. It has been great acceptance for the consumer. Has been great, and it's very interesting how people perceive the cut in general. The people that know a bit about diamonds, in our experience, our clientele have well, regarding the 4Cs, the cut is something that they value a lot, and it has been well accepted as well. In general, in NAOS, we are very, very excited to give more awareness to Mexico about 8X in mined diamonds and lab grown. And Well, thanks so much for this opportunity. We are very, very happy in collaborating with GCAL. Your values of transparency and innovation goes a lot with NAOS as well, and we are very, very happy to be exploring way more collaborations in the future.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Alejandro. And I would say we agree with your customers, very smart customers. We happen to believe that cut is the most important of the C's. And we hope after the presentation, you're going to see why, and you're going to see how 8X so transparently is able to demonstrate a diamond's superior light performance and cut quality. So with that, I'm going to start the presentation. Again, if anybody has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or Q&A, and we will get to them at the end. All right, so we are going to begin here.
Perfect.
All right, so just a little admin, Steve and Alejandro, you can see the presentation here on the screen?
We can see it. I can see it perfectly.
All right,
Yeah, perfect.
fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so thank you again for being here. This is discovering the benefits of 8X premium cut diamonds. Of course, a special thanks to our friends at NAOS, an official 8X supplier doing premium cut diamonds the right way. We're going to start with just some very brief background about GCAL if you guys are not familiar with us. GCAL was founded in 2001 and started with a very simple and straightforward mission, which is to provide the most accurate and consistent gemological services with uncompromising integrity and unparalleled customer care. Fundamental to the founding vision of GCAL is our 4Cs consumer guarantee, which makes us accountable and responsible for every certificate we produce. Because GCAL is the only diamond and gemstone lab with a guarantee, GCAL issues a certificate while all other labs issue reports that disavow any responsibility for their work product. Additionally, GCAL is the only ISO 17025 accredited forensic gems and jewelry lab in the world. And while it sounds fancy, I just want to give you a reason why it matters to you. ISO 17025 is the global standard for testing labs in all industries. This standard assures technical competency, which is assessed annually by independent audits conducted by third-party scientists. One brief example, every day since 2008, our inaugural certification, we have verified every instrument in our laboratory with certified reference materials. Our scales are verified with master diamonds and NIST traceable and certified weights. Our precious metal analyzers are verified against silver, gold, platinum, and palladium reference materials. Our imaging systems are checked with master diamonds to ensure consistent, brilliant measurements are captured. When new versions of hardware or software are released or upgraded in the lab, we can ensure that we're producing repeatable results to previous generations. And while our tolerance for verification may be decreased as resolution increases, the expected value targets remain, which means GCAL can offer consistent, reliable results throughout the years. Here's just a brief overview of the different products we produce, from natural to lab-grown, print to digital, full certs, mini certs, cards and tags. We offer a wide range of products that serve our customers. As I mentioned before, we certify loose diamonds, gemstones, finished jewelry, backed by our guarantee, ISO accreditation, RJC certification, and SCS accreditation, offering diamond measurements and testing, gem print, grading, light performance, photomicrographs, 360 video, and laser inscription. In the exciting news department, which some of you may be aware about, in May of 2023, Serene, a publicly traded company in Israel, finalized their acquisition of a majority stake of GCAL, instantly taking GCAL from a US-based laboratory only to having a global footprint backed by Serene's infrastructure, and most importantly, and most exciting, access to Serene's AI-based color and clarity grading systems, along with a verifiable traceability solution in Serene Diamond Journey. I'm now going to turn it over to Steve.
Before I do the next few slides, I also want to welcome everybody and thank Alejandro and Rose and everybody on the NAOS team for this opportunity. We really appreciate it, and we are genuinely excited to be launching 8X in Mexico. So thank you all so very much. Okay, A customer walks into a store asking to see their best diamond. Regardless of what else they sell, their best of the best diamond is 8X, the true pinnacle of diamond grading. Now, a woman walks into the room and she's wearing a spectacular diamond ring. It is brilliant. People are oohing and eyeing, and they love it, and they're making all kinds of comments about it. Is it because of the color of the diamond? No. Is it because of the clarity of the diamond? No. It's all because of the cut of the diamond. That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it brilliant. Cut is the most controllable of the 4Cs. It is what transforms a lifeless rough crystal into the brilliant polished diamond that we all cherish. It is what unlocks the beauty of a diamond, and it's what sets premium manufacturers and retailers apart from their competitors. Got something on my screen, 1 second. Okay. This is what GCAL has been issuing cut grades on all shapes for the last 15 years. And I say all shapes because the other labs don't offer cut grades on the other shapes other than round. Every shape is assessed against proportions, finish, and light performance. On the right, you will see our integration chart of how each cut grade is achieved. Until April of 2021, our cut grade went from poor to ideal. Now you can see it goes from fair to ideal. The GCAL cut grade encompasses 3 factors when establishing the cut grade: direct assessment, light performance, finish, and proportions. How much a diamond reflects, refracts, and releases its inner brilliance is determined by how well it plays with light. This is an example of a VG Oval GCAL 5-star certificate. And next slide. And this is an example of an ideal round with hearts and arrows. GCAL has a big business other than 8X. These are what we call our 5-star certificates. The first was oval. This is a round stone with hearts and arrows. And in April of 2021, we launched the 8X cut grade for rounds, which represents the top of ideal or super ideal. And in June of 2022, we launched 8X for oval and princess cut.
Thanks, Steve. Before we dig into the 8X certification, I think it's interesting to just talk about a few common misconceptions about cut. So 1, cut quality can be judged by proportions alone. Now, proportions alone can be a great rejection tool, but not always a great acceptance tool. Here you see a well-proportioned round brilliant. In fact, it has 8X proportions. Everything looks great. But now we see the brilliance with leakage under the table. And we also see the optical precision is good at best. Now, this received a XXX grade from a different laboratory. And that's mostly based on because it's a proportion-based system. Here, once you start directly assessing the diamond, its true light performance is revealed. Another misconception, and believe it or not, many in the diamond trade believe this one, that XXX and hearts and arrows are the same. As you can see here on the screen, these are all XXX diamonds, but not one of them would pass for hearts and arrows. Doesn't mean that XXX is bad. It just means that XXX does not equate to hearts and arrows. Another one, a lot of companies take shortcuts and use ray traced images. It's obviously much easier to ray trace an image than take an actual image. But you cannot assess a stone only from ray tracing. Here you see 2 images of a diamond. It looks pretty good. But this is an actual video of that diamond. And what you're seeing here is haze that is a number of clouds in the stone. In fact, this stone is an excellent, and actually these 2 stones were submitted in the same order for light performance assessment. On paper, proportions alone, these stones looked as equivalents. Here on the screen, you can see they're very far from it. So oftentimes direct assessment, which is what we believe in, is the only thing that tells the true story. Another misconception: all images on reports are actual images. That's not true. Beware of stock images. So here's an example of an IGI report that shows stock images of hearts and arrows, not really related to the diamond. And here's an actual photograph of that diamond, clearly showing it is not a hearts and arrows diamond. So again, actual images, nothing is a replacement for actual images. One of the significant trends that we've seen over the last 3 years is the rise of fancy shapes. And so when you look at the last 3 years of data, we actually see that round brilliants are a minority of the submissions. That's the first time in my lifetime that rounds now account for a minority of the submissions. So we see a rise of fancy shapes. Another trend that we see is the rise of online shopping and research, that consumers are more educated, doing more research. And in some cases, I'm sure not with NAOS, but in some cases, consumers are even more knowledgeable than the sales associates selling them diamonds. And this rise in popularity of online research has really given a boost to 8X, because as you see here on the screen, all the visuals, the images, the assessments, those are actually of the diamond that you're being shown in person. Another thing that has given a boost to 8X is the technological advancement across diamond factories. So here you see some videos snapped in a factory in Surat, India, where 90% of the world's diamonds are cut and polished. The technology, the scalability, and the craftsmanship displayed by the premier diamond cutting firms is remarkable, and it's led to vast improvements in cut quality over the years. And now I'm going to turn it back to Steve.
But it has also led to a predicament that we are in right now. If over 75% of rounds achieve an excellent cut grade, how can we possibly distinguish between the best of the best and other diamonds? The answer is we can't. And this is a real number. Over 75% of round diamonds graded by other labs are receiving an excellent cut grade, and this is simply not possible. The parameters of excellent cut are simply too wide. So if your aim is to purchase an excellent cut diamond, you can't be sure what you're going to get. For example, all 8 of these stones are XXX, but only one would be considered excellent by GCAL. Can any of you tell which is the one that GCAL would consider to be a true XXX stone, a true excellent cut optical symmetry stone? If you thought the answer was H, you are correct. Here are 3 AGS 000 stones. None of these would receive an excellent cut grade from GCAL. Can anybody tell which of these would receive? Which of these is the excellent hearts and arrows? 2 of them would not receive an excellent cut grade. One of them would. If you said it was C, you are correct. That is the one stone that GCAL would consider an excellent grade. Okay, all these are also XXX, hearts and arrows. Same situation. They're all XXX, but only one of these stones, of these 4 stones, would GCAL consider to be excellent hearts and arrows. If you think that the answer is D, you are correct. This is the only stone where GCAL would consider to be excellent cut grade for hearts and arrows. And the other labs simply don't help. They lack enough information to adequately assess cut quality. Look at these reports. Do these reports really provide enough details for a consumer to walk into a retail store and purchase a premium diamond? We do not think there's enough information here, and I don't think most other people do either. So we set out to create the most comprehensive and stringent performance-based cut grade that exists in the market. Simply said, to aim for the best. And 8X hits the bullseye of the target every single time. 8X, the ultimate diamond cut grade guaranteed certificate. Virtual Diamond Boutique is one of the industry's leading diamond exchanges, as well as lab-grown source and many suppliers. They have now changed their cut grade filter to, instead of having ideal as the best cut grade, it now has 8X as the cut grade. You go from fair to fair to good to very good, excellent, ideal, and now 8X. These people have considered 8X to be the true standard of excellence in our industry, and this was a very, very big deal. As previously mentioned, we launched 8X rounds in April of 2021, and the Oval and Princess that you see here a little over a year later in June of 2022. What you're looking at are 5 videos of these 3 stones really showing the color and true cutting brilliance of these diamonds. This is the 8X certificate for round diamonds. We'll talk more about this later, but you'll come to realize that this certificate is visually, scientifically more accurate, more important than all of the other grading reports combined. And keep in mind, this is a guaranteed certificate where we certify the diamonds. The other reports from all the other labs grade diamonds and issue a report, not a certificate. Very important point. We'll talk about it later. Okay, before we go into the details of the 8X cut grade, and Angelo takes over again, we'd like to share a 1-minute video with you that helps tell the GCAL story. It has been viewed over 200,000 times on YouTube, and it's free for anyone to use in their marketing, on their website, in their social media. However you'd like to use it, you can just let Alejandro and NAOS know. They'll let us know, and we will send you the link to this video. Enjoy. I hope you can hear. I hope the sound is okay. Angelo?
How do you know when you found a perfectly cut diamond? It's an 8X. The GCAL 8X. The ultimate in diamond cut grade. If you can't prove a diamond is perfectly cut, it's probably not. Request GCAL. GCAL 8X.
All right, so now we're going to get into what makes the 8X certification so special and comprehensive. We're assessing 8 critical factors of cut quality, as you see here on the screen. And we really can view this as 3 broad categories. Physical excellence, which is comprised of polish, symmetry, and proportions. Light performance excellence, which is comprised of optical brilliance, fire, and scintillation. And optical excellence, which is comprised of optical symmetry and hearts and arrows for round diamonds. And all 8 must achieve a grade of excellent to qualify as an 8X diamond. So we're just going to quickly touch on each of the 8Xs. First is polish. Here we're assessing the diamond surface and the freeness of scratches, nicks, pits, dop, white polish, and many other features. Here we see an example of a fine scratch on the table facet. And this is the difference at GCAL between a very good and an excellent. It doesn't make a big impact on the performance, but imagine you're buying a brand new sports car. You don't want to scratch on the hood. External symmetry is comprised of foundational attributes like table and culet alignment, uniform shape outline, and facet pointing. And here on the screen, you see minor symmetry faults that would prevent this diamond from being an 8X. Optical scanning technology measures each facet and angle to produce an accurate 2-scale diagram of every diamond. These narrow proportion tolerances were selected because they represent the intersection at which the perfect combination of brilliance, fire, and scintillation is achieved. Here on the screen, you see the GCAL 8X and GIA XXX proportions side by side, and you will see the very significant differences in the standards. While finding the precise tolerances that GIA uses is actually quite difficult, these parameters are based on data from their website and from actual reports that received a XXX grade. And while the GIA system allows only specific combinations within these ranges, you'll see how vastly different they are from 8X and how wide they are. And so one easy way to think about this chart: every GCAL 8X certified diamond would be guaranteed to make XXX, but the reverse is not true. All right, now we're moving into the light performance. This is the exciting part of 8X. Brilliance is the overall return of white light to the viewer. It's measured by GCAL proprietary technology to the 1,000th decimal place and is represented in the images shown here on the screen. This is a leakage analysis visible in the white areas in the top right image, and the inverse is the brilliance image on the bottom right and what you see on the GCAL certificate. So those blue areas on the bottom right image, that's leakage, and the white is light return or brilliance. Now here you see an example of a well-proportioned stone contrasted with a deep stone with a large table. You can note the obvious differences in visual appearance in the photographs and in the brilliance images. Since I think some of you out in the audience may have run into an ideal scope or been familiar with it, I wanted to show you an actual image of the same diamond. So we have a GCAL optical brilliance image on the left and an ideal scope on the right. In our image, blue is leakage, gray is weaker light return, white is light return. On the ideal scope image, white is leakage, pink is weaker light return, and red is light return. So the importance of this: if you have a GCAL certificate, you can derive the same information about leakage as if you had an ideal scope image. And I know that's popular on the internet. Moving on to the next assessment. This is fire. Fire results when white light travels through a diamond as it's dispersed into its rainbow of spectral colors. These flashes of color contribute to sparkle and are best viewed as the diamond moves. Here you see two diamonds, one on the left with good fire and an 8X on the right with excellent fire. Each fire video is composed of 200 different frames that are processed to analyze the quantity and size of the colored light as the diamond is tipped and tilted. Now, scintillation is the final aspect of the active light performance, and this is the flashes of light or sparkle produced when light is reflected from a diamond as it moves. This video shows the light return from a single beam of light when your diamond is rotated into 9 different tipped and tilted positions. This is just a short video. The scintillation is actually measured out of our GemPrint system, and here you can see how it's being measured and presented to you. I am now going to turn it back to Steve for a few slides.
Thanks. Just like every human being, every one of us has a unique fingerprint. Well, so do all diamonds. They also have a unique fingerprint. GemPrint records that unique optical fingerprint of each and every diamond that we certify, and it appears on every 8X cert. Every diamond that comes into our lab is GemPrinted, and then before we ship that stone out, it is GemPrinted a second time. Every diamond that enters the lab. It is used across the complete supply chain for identification and recovery. You see it goes from cutting factories to manufacturers, wholesalers, jewelry wholesalers, jewelry retailers, and of course, some of you, the end consumer. Here's another illustration of the diamond as it is tipped and tilted in 9 different positions. Scintillation images are all captured and evaluated in full on a square background and then cropped to the shape outline of the certificate. The full scan can be seen on our website, gcalusa.com. In other words, we have the scintillation image, and then if it's an oval, we capture that image on an oval shape. If it's round, on a round shape, and so forth. And you can see that right here. Symmetry is seen everywhere and evaluated everywhere in our daily life. Whatever we see, we think of a perfect image. It's got perfect symmetry. Think of a butterfly. If you divide that butterfly in half, the left side is exactly the same as the right side. Well, that is perfect symmetry. It looks everything looks aesthetically pleasing and plays an even more important role when it comes to diamond cutting.
Yep, and so optical symmetry is the 7th X, and it's visualized in these photographs taken in a 5-angle reflector. The evenness of the pattern illustrates the precision and uniformity of facet shape and alignment. And here you see angles at which we capture these images. As we showed you an ideal scope image in the previous few slides, showing you how you can assess leakage in the same way. Some of you may be familiar with the asset scope that was formerly made by AGS. And here I want to show you, this is the same diamond, our GCAL optical symmetry on the left and an asset on the right. You'll see leakage in the same points. Our red and green are in a similar angle to their red. Our blue is equivalent to their green. You can see both the minor and major facets in our analysis, and the definition and contrast of facets appear to be more clearly defined in our dome. But what I'm showing you is that if you're looking at a diamond, you're looking at an 8X certified diamond, we're providing you with all the tools and analysis that you need to accurately assess the cut quality of the stone. One question that comes up often when somebody is looking at the 8X is, well, they'll say, well, how could symmetry and optical symmetry be different? Why would that be graded differently? It's a great question with a semi-simple answer. Every single angle, relative angle, facet shape, and facet size contribute to the diamond's optical symmetry. With external symmetry, sometimes these slight differences are imperceptible, not discernible to the human eye. For example, how many of us could discern a 1-degree variance in pavilion half angles, or a 2% difference in lower girdle facet lengths? I'd say not many to nobody, but this variation has a dramatic impact on the optical symmetry of the stone as light is reflected and refracted throughout the stone. So this stone you hear on the screen is a great example of this deviation. This stone was graded XXX, but only has a good optical symmetry grade.
Yeah,
here we have 8 optical symmetry images. What's that?
Thanks for explaining, Angelo. That's a typical question about the difference of those symmetries.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a lot of information on the website and can expand upon it. Here, I think we have a duplicate slide. This is 8 XXXs, but only one excellent optical symmetry. That one is H. Again, the same thing here we're shown 3 assets. Only one of them would be considered our highest grade. When we talk about hearts and arrows, really is another level of optical symmetry. So we showed optical symmetry through the crown, which tells us a lot about the way the diamond is being reflected from the stone, at what angles, and that what angles the diamond reflects light at tells us a lot about how that brilliance is going to look face up. When we look at hearts and arrows now, we're taking optical symmetry to the next level, because we're not only looking through the crown, but we're now looking through the pavilion facet. And so to create what you see here in D, this is literally a piece of art. Any diamond that exhibits this type of hearts and arrows pattern, the craftsmanship that has gone into that diamond is unmatched. To create this takes unimaginable skill and technology. We're just going to briefly, because I want to leave some time for questions, we're going to briefly cover the methodology for the fancy shapes, because as Steve mentioned, we launched Princess and Ovals a little bit over a year ago. So just very briefly, for the last 20 years, GCAL has been assessing the optical light performance of all diamonds that pass through our lab. We've captured optical symmetry, brilliance, scintillation, photomicrographs and proportions on over 1 million stones. Here you can see just a tiny fraction of the performance images that we relied upon in data mined when establishing the 8X standards. And these are examples of the optical symmetries of ovals and princess cuts, all actual photos, nothing ray traced, nothing hypothetical here. From all of this physical and optical data that we collected, we identified the highest performing diamonds. We then isolated the proportions and angles that they shared in common, right? What were the physical traits that were shared in common by these stones? We then correlated how these variations in cut impacted each aspect of light performance to set the minimum requirements for 8X. When we talk about the 8Xs for oval, it's quite simple. The first is identical to rounds, but the 8th, and it's an extremely important 8X on ovals, is shape. So what was important and unique to oval brilliance for cut evaluation, the most obvious features to avoid are bow ties and poor shape outline. I'm sure you're all familiar with bow ties. That's that dark area seen in the center of some ovals. It's a shadow caused by light blockage from the viewer. For 8X, we are measuring this effect with machine vision to ensure all 8X ovals have a minimal bow tie and a nice balanced contrast. We're also evaluating the outline shape. Ovals should have a desirable ellipse shape without shoulder bulges, like in this example, or even an uneven egg shape. Here's just a couple more examples. On the left and the middle, you can see these really not nicely shaped ovals with, again, an 8X on the right. Here are shape aesthetic images that you see on the certificate, and these represent the axis symmetry of the diamond, showing the precision of the outline along with the facet shapes and sizes. Again, this is really going into the optical precision of the stone. These are the proportion ranges required for 8X ovals. Within these ranges are where we see the highest performing ovals. For example, we limit depth percentage typically to 63.5 because above that depth, we almost always see a bow tie. But it's important to understand that just because a diamond is cut within these proportion ranges doesn't mean that it would qualify as an 8X. Proportions alone is only one of the 8 categories that must be excellent. Here are a few examples of optical symmetry. You can see how every facet and every angle impacts this pattern. And as you move from left to right, you see average to very good to excellent. And I can tell you that the vast majority of ovals definitely are on the left 2 images on the screen, because they're typically not assessed for optical performance the way GCAL does. Okay, very briefly on princess cuts. Again, this is easy. The first 7 X's are shared with round and oval, but 8th is shape aesthetics. Now, just like with ovals, we had what was really important for princess cuts. And so we're measuring the squareness of the shape outline. Angles must be 90 degrees, and the length to width ratio must be 1 to 1.015. This is much narrower than what you'll find in other cut programs that typically allow up to a 1.05. In this example, you can see the corners are skewed and the ratio is 1.03. So every 8X princess is going to be perfectly square with perfectly right angle corners. Another feature that we feel was really important and unique to princess cuts is that the corners are undamaged at the time of certification. So this is an example of a stone that met every qualification for an 8X princess. It was absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, but it had a VVS chip on the corner. And so for that reason alone, we did not certify this stone as an 8X. So only princess cuts with undamaged corners can achieve an 8X cut grade. Again, optical symmetry. It's not just used on rounds and ovals, it's also used on princess cuts. As we look left to right, you see fair, good, very good, and excellent. And you can see how much more aesthetically appeasing and pleasing it is when it's cut just right, when all facets are lined up well. This is also very, very important for optimal fire and scintillation and sparkle in the stone. Here are the proportion ranges that we use for princess cut. Again, they were selected very carefully to find stones only at optimal performance levels. Two notable differences are the increased crown height, which is directly correlated to brilliance and fire. Princess in 8X Princess have to be between 10 and 15%. And also we have two distinct pavilion angles that really allow for maximum light return. When a diamond is cut within the specified proportion ranges and the faceting is optically precise, it results in excellent light performance, which we measure as brilliance, fire, and scintillation. And that's what makes these diamonds beautiful. Sorry, here's the brilliance, fire, and scintillation. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, the rise of online shopping is significant. The rise of online research is significant. And a good example of this is the GCAL 8X digital certificate. Retailers and consumers alike tell us that this digital experience is so transparently shows the cut quality and also the quality of the diamond that it answers every question you could have. So, we talk about at GCAL, we like to show our work. So we don't just tell you that the fire is excellent, we show you. We don't just tell you the hearts are excellent. We take an actual image to show you. And so you can go through the entire GCAL certificate, and every attribute that we're calling out with a grade is then demonstrated to you and proved to you by an and that's what we think is so powerful about 8X.
I really like
Angelo's
this
point,
because it's
to Angelo's
also
point, one more small
Go ahead.
detail is that retailers tell us from all over the country, and they tell us all the time, this is the best way for them to close a sale. This is the best way for a consumer to truly understand what they're looking at, what they have, and allows them to go home understanding that this is the diamond I want, this is the diamond I came in for. And worst comes to worst, if the consumer isn't ready to make the purchase right there at the moment, you just take out your phone, you scan the QR code that the retailer has, and you can take all this information home with you, look at it at your own leisure, and then go back to the store and make the purchase that you think is most appropriate for you.
Alejandro, you were going to say something?
Yeah, it's wonderful, Steve. Totally, and I really like this part about 8X because it distinguishes also it highlights the dedication of transparency and trust about GCAL and also about NAOS as a brand, and we can be really transparent to the client to show them the really exact details about his or her diamond.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to stop the share, and it looks like we have some questions. So just give me 1 sec here. All righty. Okay.
Have you?
All right. So we had one question about what the 8 factors were to make an 8X. I think we covered that, but just very briefly: polish, symmetry, proportions, optical brilliance, fire, scintillation, optical symmetry, and then for rounds, it's hearts and arrows, and for oval and princess, it's shape aesthetics. Another question is, if they bought this diamond, it's a good question for you, Alejandro. If I bought the diamond before 8X certification was available, is it possible to submit it to the GCAL lab or to get it checked for an upgrade? Obviously that's something that we can do.
Yeah, definitely you can speak with us and we can take care of that process and look forward for the result of the stone.
Yeah, good. Okay,
There's even something else. If I can jump in there for 1 second, there's even something else for retailers to consider. If retailers have stones that they're not happy with the way it's cut, if they're buying stones off the street, whatever the case may be, and they'd like to have those stones recut to an 8X and then get the stone back with an 8X certificate, that is also a possibility.
Okay, so the next question is, are there plans to certify 8X in other shapes? This is a question that we get often. We are working on the other shapes, so we are not done with round, oval, and princess. Marquee, pear, cushion, and radiant are all in process. For us, we wish we could come up with the shapes every few weeks, but it requires a lot of research, a lot of thought. And as Alejandro knows, our promise to customers is that if it's 8X certified, it's going to be magnificently cut. And so we have to ensure that every shape we release and the parameters are going to meet the customer's expectations. So, yes, great question. There are additional 8X shapes coming, and you will hear about it. Okay, here's a great question. Which of the 8 aspects of 8X most commonly avoided or automatically certified as excellent by other labs? So I'll rephrase the question. I think the question is, there's no secret that different labs have different standards. And there are some labs that are easier in certain aspects of cut quality. So one area that we really see, and actually you can check it by looking at any diamond exchange or diamond offerings, polish and symmetry are typically gone easy on. So we see a lot of stones in the GCAL lab that have received excellent polish or symmetry that we wouldn't issue excellent on. So that's an area where I think really GCAL maintains the original grading standards, but unfortunately some of the labs have veered from those standards. So we will continue to enforce them again so that the consumer gets exactly what they're paying for, exactly what's being described to them.
If I can add to that for a second, Ange, especially for the retailers, when you receive stones, how can you be so sure if it's so difficult to cut an 8X? How do the manufacturers know they're getting 8X? How do they know the stones they're sending to the retailer will pass for 8X? Well, we have a very important process that we do that manufacturers all over the world are able to, instead of just cutting the stone and sending the stone to the lab, they're able to send us images of these stones. And what we do is we look at the images, we study them, and we let the manufacturers know before you ship the stones to us, we let you know if it's 8X or if it's not. And if it's not 8X, we tell you why so that you can fix it. So that when the retailer gets stones that are 8X, it's already been through the process to make sure that it is.
So Alejandro, I have a question for you because the next few questions are about fancy shape 8X. So tell me in the Mexican market, give me a breakdown. I showed you the submissions to the GCAL lab where rounds were the minority are now a minority. What are the most popular shapes in Mexico right now?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And right now we have a lot of recently late in this year, ovals, cushions, radiants. Those 3 shapes probably are very hot right now. And I mean a bit of all, but yeah, we have seen, for example, since 6 years ago that I started in this industry as an entrepreneur, definitely I have seen a change.
Big change in the rise of fancies. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
from a lot of rounds going through a bit more fancy shapes. Yeah, little by little.
It's a global change.
Well, Steve's been around for I think 300 years. I've been in the business for only 18 years. In the 18 years when I started, rounds made up about 80% of the market. Steve, in the 1700s, what was the shape breakdown?
Well, in the 1700s, when I believe the King of Prussia was the first to insist on a fancy shaped stone.
Yeah. So the next question was, what are the implications or obstacles to developing a certificate for the new shapes, cushion, marquee? Again, I think I addressed it a little bit, is that we have a promise to our customers that anything certified as an 8X has to be beautiful, has to be magnificent. These shapes have a lot of variations, a lot of different cutting styles, a lot of different number of facets. So some of these shapes have different challenges. The next question is about step cut. Could step cut be 8X? So we're talking about now emerald and Asher. If those can be 8X, those would be some of the last shapes that would be able to achieve it. And that's mostly because of some of the light performance aspects where we're looking at brilliance, no problem for step cuts. But when you get to fire and scintillation, typically step cuts are going to be lacking in that area depending on the faceting structure. Okay, so we have a question about hearts and arrows. and how it affects a diamond's quality. So I think we talked about this a little bit, that we covered a lot about optical precision. Hearts and Arrows is an optical precision assessment. And so one of the important things when you look at the pictures of Hearts and Arrows, as I explained, this is basically the pinnacle of diamond cutting, right? Every facet, shape, and size has to be perfect. And when you think about the way that light interacts with a diamond, diamond's basically a prism and a series of mirrors, and these facets are mirrors. And so the more precise they are, the more consistent those reflections are as light enters and refracts and reflects through a diamond. And so there's more light being returned. So the more perfect the optical precision of the diamond, actually the increased sparkle, the increased scintillation that diamond has. So you could take a diamond that are basically the same, with the same proportions, but one is optically precise and one is not, and you would see a significant light performance difference. And so I think that's
And can't hear you.
Can't hear me? Alejandro, can you hear me?
Just a
Can't hear
bit.
you.
Your
Oh,
kind of volume went down.
okay, let's see
Okay,
if
got
There
it.
we go.
I got you now.
Oh, back now. Okay. So I don't know how much, did you miss a lot of that answer?
The last sentence or two.
Okay. So essentially the more optically precise the diamond, the better the light performance is going to be. So Hearts and Arrows itself basically is a tool that lets us know that diamond is essentially perfectly cut, and all other things considered equal is going to sparkle more and have more light performance than a stone with less precise optical symmetry. So hopefully that answers your question.
Angela, I think one good what we should talk about, maybe just for a minute, about AI, how right now with the help of AI you can be more precise in terms of the certification of the stones. I think that will be interesting.
Yeah, that's a great question, Alejandro. So as I mentioned during the presentation, in May of 2023, GCAL, a majority stake of GCAL was sold to Serene Technologies, which is a publicly traded company in Israel. About 5 years ago, they actually announced the launch of AI-based color and clarity grading systems. So as most of you know in the audience, probably color and clarity typically are still graded by humans with precision master sets under a microscope. Just about everything else in the GCAL lab is done by machine, done by instrumentation, except for color and clarity. And so now through this partnership,
I assume you all know that when referring to AI, that's artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Steve. So Serene has developed these AI-based color and clarity grading systems, which will now allow us to be able to grade a diamond anywhere in the world. Up until this point, GCAL has only had one lab in New York. Our fear of expansion was the potential deterioration of our standards. And so now we're able, with the Serene systems, to be able to grade a stone precisely the same color and clarity, whether it's in New York or Surat or Hong Kong or anywhere in the world. And so now every stone passing through the GCAL lab is being assessed through the AI grading systems. Alejandro, just for your own knowledge.
You're fading out again, Ange.
Okay. What about now? Better?
Not so much.
I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay. What about now? Anything?
Little better.
Yeah, perfect, better.
Let me just see if I can.
Right now it's good.
Yeah, I'm going to increase the volume a little bit. I think I'm all the way up. Okay, so anyhow, long story short is that we're now able to utilize AI grading for all of the diamonds passing through the lab, which is just going to increase consistency and accuracy across the board. So it allows GCAL to scale our operations globally without compromising our standards, which is paramount importance to us.
Wonderful.
We are the only lab in the United States that has AI grading machines. And at the recent JCK show in Las Vegas, where we actually met Alejandro, one of the biggest jewelry shows in the world, we had both of our machines, the clarity and color grading AI machines, in our booth, having demonstrations for all the people who came to the booth, and the reception was extraordinary. People were amazed and thrilled by what they saw.
So we just have a couple of questions. This is about a diamond cutter. For a regular diamond cutter, how feasible is it to cut an 8X? Unfortunately, it's not. It requires definitely advanced machinery and equipment, and advanced knowledge. So it is something that only a handful of diamond manufacturers around the world can achieve 8X. We have a couple more questions about shapes. We won't go through those again. Actually, one interesting question, maybe Alejandro, in your experience, just to talk about cut and color. Does the brilliance and fire aspect affect the color part of the 4Cs? For example, if I buy a D-color diamond, will it change depending on its brilliance? So maybe this is about perception of color and light performance.
Yeah, well, a lot of people come and think in the first appointment, let's say the first time they purchase a stone, that maybe the brilliance is because of the clarity, or maybe the brilliance is because of the color. So the brilliance of the stone mainly is because of the cut, and also that's one of the reasons why 8X it's a very, very, very good option for people looking for a very, very bright stone. Of course, the 4Cs altogether affect the aspect and how the stone is perceived by the human eye, but at the end, the cut is the most significant one for the brilliance of the stone.
Yeah, that's great.
Sometimes we like to say the 4Cs of a diamond are cut, 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 and cut.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, there was a couple more questions about additional shapes. So we can tell in the audience that additional shapes getting 8X certification would be a popular thing. And then there was one question about 8X being available for stones other than diamond. At this time, it's not being considered for gemstones, only for diamond. But it's a great question. So I think that's all the questions we have. Alejandro, is there anything that you have questions for us before we go?
I think we're good. Thanks so much. We are very, very happy in collaborating with you, and we look forward to help on your mission on getting more awareness to the people and educating the consumers on what are diamonds and the difference about each stone. As you mentioned, Steve, during the webinar, every diamond has its fingerprint as humans, so that's very, very important, and we are very happy to really offer the most distinguished stones to our clients here in Mexico with mined diamonds and lab grown, and also about sharing these values with you of transparency, innovation, and dedication to all these values, because at the end, as in the industry, there is innovation, and it's very important to embrace it and to give this value to the consumer.
Just one final point to remind everybody that this webinar has been recorded. So if anyone has missed it, and you know of anyone who has missed it, Alejandro, and they would like to see it, you can send them a link. If anyone who is participating today would like to see it again, share it with others, maybe take a little more time in going through it, the link will be available soon, and we'll be able to share with you. Alejandro will send it to you, and you can distribute it as you wish.
Thanks so much. We're happy as well to show you in person the 8X stones here.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Alejandro. Thank you all for joining us today. We're excited that to be partners here with NAOS and bringing beautifully cut stones to Mexico. So thank you all. Have a wonderful evening, and we will hopefully see you all soon.
Muchas gracias.
Thanks so much.
Buenas noches.
Muchas gracias a todos.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.